30 years old and still unmarried, it's unnatural." Mrs. Patterson's voice carried across the entire store. "A widow your age should know better than to keep pretending you have prospects." Clara's hand stilled on the ledger. Every customer in the store had gone silent, waiting, watching, hoping she'd finally break. She lifted her head, met Mrs. Patterson's smug expression with steel in her eyes. "You're right," Clara said quietly. "A woman my age should know better." She walked around the counter, voice rising with every step. Better than to let bitter, small-minded people define her worth. Better than to beg for approval from a town that feeds on cruelty. Better than to believe for 1 second that you get to decide when my story ends. Mrs. Patterson's face went white. "Now get out of my store. Before we begin, please subscribe to this channel and stay until the end of this story. Comment below with the city you're watching from. I want to see how far Clara's journey reaches." The silence after the door slammed felt worse than the insult itself. Clara pressed her palms against the worn counter, forcing herself to breathe. The wood was smooth under her hands. 10 years of running this store had polished it down to nothing. Just like the town had tried to do to her. She counted to 10, then 20, then stopped counting because it didn't help. Through the front window she could see them. Mrs. Patterson whispering to the butcher's wife. Old man Garrett shaking his head. The cluster of younger women barely 20, all of them giggling behind their hands. They weren't even trying to hide it anymore. "You all right in there, Clara?" She turned. Thomas Webb stood in the back doorway, hat in hand, her only employee, 17 years old and the only person in this godforsaken town who looked at her like she was human. "I'm fine, Thomas." "That's the third person this week who—" "I said I'm fine." He shifted his weight, clearly wanting to say more. Clara saved him the trouble. "Check the inventory in the back. We're low on lamp oil." Thomas nodded and disappeared. Good kid. Too good for this place. Clara moved to the window and flipped the sign to closed, even though it was barely noon. Let them talk about that too. She had ledgers to balance and no patience left for their poison. The numbers didn't lie, at least. Unlike people, she opened the ledger, running her finger down the columns. Income was steady, not thriving, but steady, enough to keep the doors open. Pay Thomas, keep herself fed. She'd built this from nothing after Henry died, took his life insurance, all $53 of it, and turned it into something that mattered. The town had other ideas about what a widow should do. Remarry. Quickly. Quietly. Disappear into some man's house and stop reminding everyone that women could die in childbirth and men could fall off horses, and life didn't care about anyone's plans. But Clara was 30 now, and 30 in Cutter's Pass might as well be 60. The bell above the door chimed. Clara didn't look up. "We're closed." "Sign says open till 5. That voice. Deep. Unfamiliar. Definitely not from around here. She raised her eyes. The man in her doorway looked like he'd ridden straight out of a dust storm and decided not to wash it off. Tall. Broad-shouldered. Face weathered in a way that said he'd earned every line. Dark eyes that didn't blink when she stared back. "I flipped it," Clara said. "So we're closed." "Saw that. Came in anyway." The audacity of it almost made her laugh. Almost. "Then you're trespassing." "Technically, I'm a customer." He stepped inside, letting the door close behind him. "Need supplies. Heard you run the best store in town." "You heard wrong. Jackson's Mercantile is 2 streets over. Jackson waters down his kerosene and shortchanges his scales." The stranger walked to the counter like he owned it. "You don't." Clara closed the ledger. "Who told you that?" "No one. Watched him for 20 minutes yesterday." He pulled a folded paper from his coat. "I need this list filled. Can you do it or not?" She took the paper, scanned it, frowned. "This is enough supplies for a crew of 15, for a month. Closer to 20, and 2 months. What are you building?" "A ranch." He said it like it was nothing, like men just showed up in Cutter's Pass and built ranches every day. "Calder Ranch, 10 miles north. Just bought the old Brennan spread." Clara's stomach dropped. "The Brennan place has been abandoned for 3 years." "I know, that's why it was cheap." "It's cheap because the land's cursed. 4 families tried to work it. 4 families failed." Good thing I'm not superstitious. She looked at him again. Really looked. He wasn't cocky, wasn't boastful, just certain. Like failure wasn't a word he'd learned yet. You have a name, she asked. Jace Calder. Clara Whitmore. She expected him to react. Everyone did when they heard her name. The widow, the woman who should have moved on by now, the cautionary tale mothers told their daughters, but Jace just nodded. Can you fill the order? Depends. Can you pay? He pulled out a leather pouch and set it on the counter, heavy enough that it thumped. Cash, up front. I don't do credit. Clara opened the pouch, counted quickly. It was all there. More than all there. This is too much. Consider the extra a deposit. I'll be ordering regular, monthly. Need someone reliable. Something in her chest loosened, just slightly. I can fill this by tomorrow afternoon. Good enough. Jace turned to leave, then paused. They give you trouble out there. I'm sorry. The people watching through your window, they give you trouble. Clara glanced outside. Sure enough, 3 faces ducked away from the glass. Nothing I can't handle. That's not what I asked. She met his eyes. Saw something there she hadn't seen in a long time. Not pity. Not curiosity. Just recognition. Like he knew exactly what it felt like to be the thing people whispered about. Yes, she said quietly. They give me trouble. Jace nodded. Figured. You need help with anything, you let me know. Then he was gone. Clara stood there for a full minute, staring at the closed door, trying to figure out what had just happened. Thomas emerged from the back. Who was that? New rancher, Jace Calder. Calder heard about him. Bought the Brennan place for practically nothing. People say he's crazy. People say a lot of things. Thomas grinned. They sure do. Clara pulled the order list close, started calculating. This would be good for business. Really good. The kind of regular income that could... She stopped herself. Don't hope. Hope was dangerous, but she couldn't help doing the math anyway. Jace Calder came back the next afternoon. Clara had everything ready, organized by category, double-checked weights. She'd even wrapped the more fragile items in old newspaper to prevent breakage during transport. Efficient, Jace said, examining the crates. I know what I'm doing. Never doubted it. He started loading items into his wagon. Need help. I've got Thomas. But Thomas was out on a delivery, and the heaviest crate was still sitting there, and Clara's back wasn't what it used to be. Jace lifted it like it weighed nothing. Where? Left side. Balance it against the... He'd already done it. Perfect placement. He knew what he was doing too. They worked in silence for a few minutes. Clara handing items over. Jace arranging them with a precision that spoke of years doing this exact thing. You run this place alone, he asked. Got 1 employee. Good kid. You own it. Every inch. Husband, leave it to you. Clara's hand stilled. That's personal. Fair enough. Jace tied down the last strap. Didn't mean to pry. But she answered anyway. Couldn't say why. He didn't leave me anything but debt. I built this after. Jace looked at her then. Really looked. Not the way men in town looked at her with judgment or pity, or that calculating expression that said they were wondering if she was desperate enough yet. He looked at her like she'd said something worth hearing. That's impressive, he said. 2 words. That's all it was. But Clara felt them down to her bones. She cleared her throat. I should total up the order. Already paid. That was a deposit. This is more than covered. Keep the change. Mr. Calder, I don't take charity. Good. I don't give it. He climbed onto the wagon seat. This is business. You provide quality goods. I pay fairly. That's how it works. That's not how anything works in this town. Then maybe this town's been doing it wrong. He clicked his tongue. The horses moved, and Clara stood there watching a stranger drive away with her supplies and her confusion and something else she couldn't name. The door to the dress shop across the street opened. Margaret Finch stepped out, arms crossed. You'll regret getting mixed up with that one, Margaret called. Man like that doesn't have honest intentions. Clara didn't answer, just went back inside and closed the door. That night she counted her earnings 3 times. The extra Jace had left was enough to cover 2 months of rent on the building. 2 months of breathing room she desperately needed. She should have felt relief. Instead, she felt something that terrified her more. She felt hope. Jace came back every week after that. Not for supplies. At first, Clara told herself he needed things. Nails, rope, coffee, small items he could have gotten anywhere. But he kept coming to her. And he kept talking. "You know anything about irrigation?" he asked one Thursday morning. "Some." "Why?" "Got a water problem on the north pasture. Thinking about digging a channel." "From where?" he told her. She explained why it wouldn't work, suggested an alternative. He listened, actually listened, asked follow-up questions, took notes. The next week, that irrigation idea worked. Thanks. The week after, what do you know about cattle breeds? Clara knew plenty. Her father had run cattle before the war. She'd grown up around them. They talked for an hour. Thomas handled the other customers. And when old Mrs. Patterson made a loud comment about women who forget their place, Jace had turned and stared at her with such cold intensity that the old woman had literally backed out of the store. Clara should have felt embarrassed. She felt protected instead. It became a pattern. Jace would come in. They'd talk, not about personal things, about work, land, animals, business, the kind of conversations Clara used to have with her father, with Henry before he died, the kind of conversations the town had decided she didn't deserve anymore. "You're smart," Jace said one day, completely matter-of-fact. Clara nearly dropped the can of beans she was shelving. "Excuse me. You're smart. Most people aren't. Figured you should know." Then he'd paid for his 3 pounds of coffee and left. Clara stood there, can still in hand, trying to remember the last time anyone had called her anything but that poor widow woman, or too independent for her own good. She couldn't. The letter came on a Tuesday. Clara knew what it was the moment she saw the legal seal. Thomas brought in the mail, and this one sat on top like a coiled snake. She didn't open it right away. Finished helping a customer first. Reorganized a shelf. Swept the floor. Put it off as long as she could. Finally, when the store was empty and Thomas was out back, she broke the seal. Notice of property seizure. The words blurred. She blinked. Focused. Failure to pay outstanding property taxes. Amount owed $347.82. Building and land to be sold at auction. 90 days to settle debt or vacate premises. $347. Clara's hands started shaking. Actually shaking. She pressed them flat against the counter. She didn't owe $300 in back taxes. She'd paid. Every quarter. Every single time. She grabbed her records, flipped through them, found the receipts. They were all there, stamped, dated, signed by Walter Morrison at the land office. So why? The door opened. "Afternoon, Clara." Walter Morrison himself, smiling, perfectly pressed suit. That smile she'd always thought was friendly. It wasn't friendly. "I see you got my notice," he said. "There's been a mistake. I paid these taxes. I have receipts." "Oh, those." Walter waved a hand. "Those were for the building, not the land." Clara's stomach turned to ice. "The land and building are the same property. Actually, if you read your deed carefully, you'll find they're listed separately. Common mistake. The building's paid. The land..." He shrugged. "Well, that's past due." I never..." Clara's voice failed her. "You collected those taxes yourself. For the building, like I said." "You're lying." Walter's smile didn't waver. "Careful, Clara. That's a serious accusation. I'm just doing my job, following the law." He picked up a can from the shelf, examined it, set it down. "Of course, if you can pay the debt, this all goes away. You have 90 days. $347. She had maybe 80 in savings. Maybe. "I'll find it," she said. "I'm sure you'll try?" Walter headed for the door, paused. "You know this whole situation could have been avoided if you just..." made different choices after Henry died. There were good men who offered, men who could have taken care of this property. Proper. There it was, the real reason. "Get out," Clara whispered. "I'm going, but Clara—" He looked back. 90 days isn't very long, and nobody in this town's going to help you. You made sure of that when you decided you were too good for all of us." The door closed. Clara sank onto the stool behind the counter. 90 days. $347. And nobody in this entire goddamn town who would lift a finger to help her. She put her head in her hands, and for the first time in 10 years since the day they'd lowered Henry into the ground, Clara Whitmore let herself cry. She didn't cry for long. Couldn't afford to. By the time Thomas came back, she'd wiped her face, hidden the letter, and was back to work like nothing had happened. But everything had happened. That night, Clara sat in her small room above the store and did the math. Over and over. Different ways. Borrowing from this. Cutting that. Selling everything she owned that wasn't nailed down. She could maybe come up with 200. Not enough. She thought about leaving, packing up, starting over somewhere else. But this store was everything. Her whole life. Her proof that she could survive. That she mattered. If she lost this, she lost herself. The knock on her door came just after 9. Clara froze. Nobody came by this late. Nobody came by at all. Another knock. Harder. She grabbed the rifle Henry had left her. Approached the door. "Who is it?" Jace called her. Clara's heart stuttered. She opened the door a crack. He stood there, hat in hand, looking uncomfortable in a way she'd never seen him look before. "Something wrong?" she asked. "You tell me." "I don't—" "Saw Morrison leaving your store this afternoon. Saw your face after. Something's wrong." Clara tightened her grip on the rifle. "It's none of your concern." "Probably not." Jace shifted his weight. "But I'm asking anyway." She should have closed the door. Should have told him to leave. Should have handled this herself like she handled everything herself. Instead, she heard herself say, "I'm losing the store." Jace's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes sharpened. "Why?" "Back taxes, apparently. $347, 90 days. You didn't know about them. I paid what I thought I owed. Morrison's claiming I missed the land portion, separately. That's—" Jace cut himself off. "That's convenient timing." "It's not timing, it's punishment." Clara laughed, but it came out broken. "I'm 30 years old and unmarried and running a business. In Cutter's Pass, that's 3 sins in one. They've been waiting for a chance to put me back in my place." Jace was quiet for a long moment. Then, "How much do you have?" "That's—" "Clara, how much? Maybe 200, if I'm lucky, if I sell things. So you need about 150 more. I need a miracle, which don't exist." She started to close the door. "Thanks for checking, but this is my problem." "What if it wasn't—" She stopped. What if it wasn't just your problem?" Jace met her eyes. "What if I helped?" "I don't take charity." "I know. That's why I'm not offering it." He took a breath. "I'm offering a deal." Clara's chest tightened. "What kind of deal?" "The kind that solves both our problems." Jace turned his hat in his hands. "I need help. The ranch is bigger than I can handle alone. I need someone who knows business, knows people, knows this area. Someone smart enough to see problems before they happen." "You need a partner." "I need a wife." The word hung in the air between them like a physical thing. Clara couldn't breathe. "You're not serious." "Dead serious. Marry me. Move your business to my land. We build something together. Something better than either of us could build alone." "You don't even know me." "I know enough. You're honest. You're smart. You work harder than anyone I've ever met. You don't quit." His eyes held hers. "That's more than most marriages start with." "This is insane." "Probably, but it solves your problem and mine." Jace put his hat back on. "Think about it. You have 90 days. I can wait. He started down the stairs. Jace? He turned. Why? Clara's voice cracked. Why would you do this? For a long moment he didn't answer. Then, because watching them crush you feels wrong. And I don't like things that feel wrong. He disappeared into the darkness. Clara stood in her doorway, staring at nothing, her whole world tilting on an axis she didn't understand. A marriage proposal. From a man she barely knew. To save everything she'd built, she closed the door, locked it, sat on her bed, and tried to figure out if Jace Calder was her salvation, or just another kind of trap. Clara didn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard Jace's voice, "Marry me." 2 words that made no sense, and perfect sense all at once. By dawn, she'd talked herself out of it 17 times. By the time she opened the store, she'd almost convinced herself to say yes. By noon, she was back to no. Thomas noticed. You sick or something? I'm fine. You've reorganized that same shelf 4 times. Clara forced herself to stop. Put the cans down. Just tired. Boss, if something's wrong. It's not. But it was. Everything was wrong. The letter sat in her desk drawer like a ticking bomb. 90 days. 89 now. The bell chimed. Margaret Finch swept in with 2 other women Clara recognized but didn't like. Clara, dear. Margaret's voice dripped false sweetness. We heard the most interesting rumor. I don't have time for gossip. Oh, this isn't gossip. Walter Morrison's wife told me herself. Margaret leaned against the counter. Something about unpaid taxes. How unfortunate. The other women tittered. Clara's hands clenched. If you need help, Margaret continued, I'm sure someone could arrange something. Maybe the church ladies could take up a collection for charity cases. Get out. Excuse me. I said get out of my store. Margaret's smile turned sharp. Your store. For now. She glanced at her companions. Come on, ladies. Let's leave the poor dear to her situation. They left laughing. Thomas appeared from the back. I hate this town. Makes 2 of us. Clara tried to work, tried to focus. But the words kept circling marry me. Move your business. We build something together. She'd never wanted to need anyone. Not after Henry died, and the whole town descended like vultures trying to decide her future for her. Not after she'd proven she could survive alone. But surviving wasn't the same as living. And alone was starting to feel like another word for drowning. The afternoon dragged. Few customers. Those who came in looked at her differently now, like she was already gone, already defeated. At 4 o'clock the door opened again. Jace. Of course. Came for nails, he said. Back corner, 3rd shelf. He didn't move. You thought about it? I've thought about nothing else. And Clara set down the ledger she wasn't actually reading. It's insane. You know that, right? Marrying a stranger to save a business? Stranger's a stretch. We've talked more than most married couples I know. We've talked about irrigation and cattle, not about... She gestured helplessly. Life, real life. What do you want to know? Everything. Nothing. Clara didn't know where to start. Why aren't you married already? She asked. Man your age building a ranch, most would have brought a wife with them. Jace was quiet for a moment. Tried once, long time ago, didn't work out. What happened? She wanted a different kind of man, softer, more civilized. He met Clara's eyes. I'm not good at pretending to be something I'm not. Neither am I. I know. That's why I'm asking you and not them. He nodded toward the window where Margaret and her friends were visible across the street, still watching. Clara laughed despite herself. This is crazy. Probably. You going to answer anyway? She should say no, should tell him she'd find another way, should protect what little pride she had left, but pride didn't pay $300 debts. I need time. How much? I don't know, more than a day. Jace nodded, grabbed the nails, paid, started to leave, stopped. For what it's worth, he said, I don't think you need saving. I think you need a fair shot. That's all I'm offering. Then he was gone. Clara stood there, those words settling into her chest like stones. A fair shot. When was the last time anyone had offered her that? Never. The answer was never. Monday. 3 days passed. The town got meaner. Someone painted "whore" on her door overnight. Clara scrubbed it off before dawn, hands raw from the lye soap. Mrs. Patterson made a show of moving her business to Jackson's Mercantile. Told half the street why. "I simply can't support a woman of questionable moral character," she announced loudly. "Spending time alone with that Calder man. Unmarried, improper. It's disgraceful." 2 more customers followed. Then 3. By the end of the week, Clara's daily income had dropped by half. Thomas found her in the back room, head in her hands. "They're killing us," he said quietly. "I know." "What are you going to do?" "I don't know." But she did know. Deep down she knew. She just hated it. That night she pulled out the box from under her bed. Henry's things. Letters he'd written her before they married. The cheap ring he'd bought with money he didn't have. The photograph of them on their wedding day, both of them so young, so stupidly hopeful. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the image. "I tried. I really tried to make it work alone." But Henry was 7 years dead, and the dead didn't pay debts, and Clara was so tired of fighting battles she couldn't win. She put the box away, made her decision. Tomorrow she'd tell Jace yes. Except Jace didn't come the next day, or the day after. Clara told herself it was fine. He was busy. Ranch work didn't stop for marriage proposals. But doubt crept in anyway. What if he'd changed his mind? What if it had been some kind of test she'd failed by hesitating? By the 3rd day without seeing him, Clara was furious. At herself, at him, at this whole impossible situation. She was closing up the store when the wagon pulled up outside. Not Jace's wagon. Bigger. Fancy. She recognized it immediately. Samuel Porter, richest man in 3 counties. 60 years old if he was a day. Widowed twice. Known for buying things land businesses people and keeping them under his thumb. He climbed down slowly, straightened his expensive coat, and walked in like he owned the place already. "Mrs. Whitmore, good evening." "Mr. Porter, I'll get straight to business. I've heard about your tax situation." Of course he had. Everyone had. "I'm handling it." "I'm sure you're trying, but $300 is a substantial sum." Porter smiled. "I'd like to make you an offer." Clara's stomach sank. "What kind of offer?" "I'll pay your debt. All of it. In exchange, you deed the property to me and continue running the store as my employee. You'd have steady income, no risk, no stress. I'd have nothing. This store would be yours." "Details." Porter waved a hand. "The point is, you'd be secure, protected, no more struggling." "No more freedom, you mean?" "Freedom's overrated, my dear, especially for a woman in your position." He stepped closer. "Alone. Aging. No prospects. This is a generous offer. I suggest you consider it carefully." Aging. The word hit like a slap. "Get out!" Porter's smile hardened. "I'm trying to help you." "No, you're trying to buy me cheap. Now get out before I throw you out." He studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Your choice. But when you lose everything, and you will don't come crying to me." He left. The door closed. Clara's hands were shaking again. Not from fear, from rage. Aging. Alone. No prospects. She was 30 years old, and they talked about her like she was used up. Finished. Worth nothing except what men like Porter could extract from her desperation. The bell chimed again. Clara spun around ready to scream. Jace stood there covered in dirt, looking exhausted. "Where have you been?" The words came out sharper than she intended. "North pasture. Had a fence break. Lost 2 days fixing it." He frowned. "Why?" "Something happened." Everything happened. Clara wanted to say it. Wanted to tell him about Porter, about the town, about how she was drowning, and everyone was just watching and enjoying the show. Instead, she said, "Yes." Jace blinked. "Yes, what?" "Yes, I'll marry you. Yes to the deal. Yes to all of it." Clara lifted her chin. "But I have conditions." "All right." This is a business arrangement, not a love match. We're clear on that. Crystal. I run my business my way. You don't interfere. Wouldn't dream of it. And if this doesn't work, if we can't stand each other after a year, we end it. Cleanly. I keep my business, you keep the ranch. No hard feelings. Jace considered this. 1 year trial. Fair enough. Anything else? I need to know you won't. Clara's voice caught. I need to know you won't try to control me. Make me into something I'm not. I've had enough of people trying to break me into acceptable pieces. Something shifted in Jace's expression. Softened. I don't want you broken, Clara. I want you exactly as you are. Stubborn. Sharp. Stronger than you have any right to be. He held out his hand. Deal. Clara looked at his hand. Calloused. Honest. Offering her a chance when no one else would. She took it. Deal. His grip was firm, warm, real. When? She asked. Soon as possible. Before Morrison can move on that auction. That's 2 weeks. Then we get married in 2 weeks. Clara's heart hammered. This was really happening. She was really doing this. The town's going to lose their minds, she said. Good. Let them. Ish. News spread like wildfire. By the next morning, everyone knew. By noon, the whispers had turned to outright confrontation. You're making a mistake, Mrs. Patterson announced from the street. Throwing yourself at a man you barely know. It's desperate. Mind your business, Clara called back. When you've ruined yourself, don't expect sympathy. Clara closed the door, locked it, leaned against it. Thomas looked worried. This is going to get worse before it gets better. I know. You sure about this? About him? Was she? Clara didn't know, but she was sure about one thing: she'd rather take a risk with Jace than let Porter or Morrison or anyone else in this town decide her fate. I'm sure, she said. The day of the wedding arrived faster than Clara expected. No ceremony, no guests, just her and Jace and the judge and Thomas as witness. Judge Harmon looked at them over his glasses. This is highly irregular. Nothing illegal about it, Jace said. No, but Mrs. Whitmore, you're certain this man is virtually a stranger? I'm certain. Very well. Harmon pulled out the paperwork. Any objections before we proceed? The door crashed open. Walter Morrison stood there, red-faced, holding papers. I object, on grounds of fraud. Clara's blood turned cold. What? This marriage is clearly a scheme to avoid legitimate debt. I'm filing an injunction. On what grounds? Jace's voice was deadly calm. On grounds that Mrs. Whitmore is using marriage to fraudulently transfer assets and avoid financial responsibility. That's insane, Clara said. The debt is mine. I'm paying it. With his money. After transferring your business to his property. That's fraud. Judge Harmon frowned. Mr. Morrison, unless you have proof of criminal intent. I have proof of suspicious timing. That's enough. Clara felt the room spinning. They'd thought of everything. Blocked every exit. Even marriage couldn't save her now. But Jace stepped forward, pulled a bank draft from his pocket, handed it to Morrison. $347.82, paid in full, on behalf of Mrs. Whitmore. Morrison stared at the draft. This doesn't, she can't what except a loan from her fiancé? Pretty sure that's legal. Jace's smile was cold. Or are you objecting to something else, like the fact that you've been running a scam on widows and unmarried women for years, claiming they owe split taxes when they don't? Morrison's face went white. That's a lie. Is it because I've been checking records? Funny thing, men never seem to owe these split taxes. Only women. Only ones without husbands to fight for them. Jace pulled out more papers. Got 12 cases here. All women. All sudden missed land taxes. All coincidentally around the time they refused marriage proposals from men you do business with. The room went silent. You can't prove that, Morrison whispered. Maybe not in court, but I can sure as hell make it public. Let people draw their own conclusions. Jace stepped closer. Or you can take the money mark the debt paid and walk away. Your choice. Morrison's hands shook. He looked at Clara, at Jace, at the judge. Finally, he snatched the bank draft. Debt is paid. But this isn't over. Yeah, it is. Jace's voice was iron. Touch her again, come near her property again, even look at her wrong, and I'll bury you. Legally. Publicly. Permanently. We clear. Morrison fled. Clara couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Jace had he'd just, shall we continue? Judge Harmon asked quietly. Clara looked at Jace. Really looked. Saw something in his eyes she hadn't seen before. Not just determination. Protection. The kind that didn't ask permission or expect gratitude. Just acted. Yes, she whispered. Let's continue. The vows were simple, standard. Nothing romantic about them. But when Jace said, I do, Clara felt something shift. Like the ground under her feet had finally stopped moving. I now pronounce you husband and wife. No kiss. They'd agreed on that. This was business. But Jace took her hand, squeezed it once, and Clara squeezed back. They walked out of that office married. The whole town was waiting outside. Margaret Finch stood front and center. This is a disgrace, a mockery of marriage. You should be ashamed. Clara opened her mouth. Jace beat her to it. My wife doesn't owe you shame, doesn't owe you explanations, doesn't owe you anything. He looked around at all of them. She built a business from nothing, survived when you all wanted her to fail, and now she's mine. Anyone got a problem with that can take it up with me. Silence. Then Jace helped Clara into the wagon, climbed up beside her, clicked the reins. They rode through town past all those staring faces heads high. Clara didn't look back. Didn't need to. She was done with Cutter's Pass and its poison. Whatever came next wherever this strange marriage led, it had to be better than what she was leaving behind. It had to be. The ranch appeared over the ridge like something out of a fever dream. Clara had expected bad. Abandoned for 3 years meant bad. But this was worse than bad. The main house sagged on one side, half the shutters missing. The barn looked ready to collapse if someone breathed on it too hard. Fences hung in pieces. Weeds choked everything. You bought this? The words came out before she could stop them. Jace's jaw tightened. I bought potential. You bought a disaster. Same thing. He pulled the wagon to a stop. House is mostly sound. Roof's good. Structure's solid. Clara stared. The porch steps were rotting through. Mostly. You want to go back? Did she? Back to Morrison's smirk and Margaret's poison, and a town that wanted her crushed? Clara climbed down from the wagon. Where do I put my things? Something like relief crossed Jace's face. I'll show you. The inside was better than the outside. Barely. Someone had cleaned recently, Jace, she realized. He'd scrubbed floors, washed windows, tried to make it livable. The effort was almost touching. Almost. Master bedroom's upstairs, Jace said. I've been using the room off the kitchen. You can have whichever you want. Clara understood what he wasn't saying. Separate rooms, business arrangement, no expectations. I'll take upstairs, she said. There's a study next to it. Figured you could use it for your store records. Planning. He'd thought about this. About where she'd work. Where she'd need space. Thank you, Clara said quietly. Jace nodded. Set her bags down. I've got horses to feed. Make yourself at home. Then he was gone, and Clara was alone in a stranger's house that was somehow now hers too. She sat on the bed. It creaked. The whole room smelled like dust and old wood and loneliness. What had she done? They ate dinner in silence that first night. Jace had made stew. It was good. Clara didn't taste it. You can change things, Jace said finally. In the house, however you want. It's your house. It's our house now. Our. The word felt foreign. Clara had been alone for so long that our seemed like a language she'd forgotten how to speak. I don't know where to start, she admitted. Start small, one thing at a time. Jace pushed his bowl aside. I've been thinking about your store. Where to put it? I thought you said you wouldn't interfere. I'm not interfering. I'm offering land. You decide what to do with it. Clara studied him, tried to find the angle, the control, the catch that always came with men's help. But Jace just looked tired. There's a building near the main road, he continued. Used to be a trading post. Hasn't been used in years, but the bones are good. Big enough for inventory, close enough to town that customers could reach it. Far enough that Morrison can't touch it. You've thought this through. Had 3 days to think while fixing fence. Yeah, I thought it through. Clara set down her fork. Why are you doing this? Really? Jace was quiet for a long moment. You know what it's like. Being the thing everyone whispers about. The one who doesn't fit. He met her eyes. I've been that thing my whole life. So when I see someone else fighting the same fight, I don't know. Seems wrong not to help. But marriage. That's a hell of a way to help. Maybe. But it works, doesn't it? You're safe. I've got a partner who actually knows what she's doing. We both win. Except it didn't feel like winning. It felt like standing on ice waiting for the crack. I'll look at the building tomorrow, Clara said. Good. Jace stood, collected the dishes. I'll be up before dawn. Ranch doesn't run itself. I'll be up too. He looked surprised. You don't have to. I'm not going to sit inside while you work yourself to death. If this is our ranch, I pull my weight. Jace smiled. Small. Real. All right then. Up before dawn. Clara went to bed that night in a strange room, in a strange house, married to a strange man, and tried not to think about how nothing in her life made sense anymore. She woke to hammering. Clara dressed fast, stumbled downstairs, found Jace outside already fixing the porch steps. Coffee's inside, he called without looking up. How long have you been up? Couple hours. You should have woken me. You needed sleep. Jace drove another nail home. This can wait. But he was doing it anyway. Of course he was. Clara poured coffee, brought him a cup. He took it surprised. Thanks. Show me the building, the one you mentioned. After I finish. Show me now. The porch can wait. Jace studied her, set down the hammer. All right, come on. They walked across the property. It was bigger than Clara had realized, much bigger. Rolling fields that could support cattle, a creek running through. Good land, wasted land. How much did you pay for this? She asked. $1,000. Clara stopped walking. You paid $1,000 for a falling down ranch. Like I said, potential. You're either brilliant or insane. Probably both. Jace pointed ahead. There. The building sat near the road just like he'd said. Old. Weathered. But solid. Clara walked around it, checking corners, testing boards. The roof needed work. The door hung crooked. But the foundation was good. The space was good. I could make this work, she said. I know. I'd need supplies. Lumber, paint, new shelving. Make a list. I'll get it. Clara turned to face him. With what money you just paid my $300 debt and bought this ranch, you can't have much left. I've got enough. Jace. Clara. He stepped closer. I didn't go into this blind. I've got money. Not rich, but stable. Enough to get the ranch running and your store opened. After that, we make our own. How do you have that kind of money? His expression closed off. Worked for it, saved it. That's all you need to know. There was a story there. Clara could feel it. But Jace's tone said that door was locked, and she wasn't getting the key today. Fine, she said. I'll make a list. They walked back to the house in silence. Not uncomfortable, just quiet. Like two people learning how to exist in the same space without colliding. Clara made her list. It was long, detailed. She expected Jace to balk at the cost. He just nodded. I'll head to town tomorrow. Get what I can. They won't sell to you, not after. Then I'll go to the next town, and the one after that if I have to. Jace folded the list. You're getting your store, Clara. I made a promise. He kept his promises. Clara was starting to understand that. Gang. 3 days later, Thomas showed up. Clara heard the wagon before she saw it, ran outside, found Thomas climbing down, grinning. "Figured you could use help," he said. "How did you—" "Mr. Calder came by, offered me a job, store manager, once you get set up." Thomas looked around. "This place is bigger than I thought." Clara's throat tightened. Jace had done this, had thought about Thomas too, about giving the kid a future. "Welcome to the madness," she said. Between the three of them, they worked like demons. Jace handled the heavy construction. Clara organized inventory and supply chains. Thomas ran errands and kept things moving. The store started taking shape. Not just a building anymore, a real business. Word spread. A few brave souls from town made the trip out. Bought supplies. Paid fair prices. Left quickly like they were afraid of being seen. But they came. And they came back. 1 week became 2. 2 became a month. The store opened officially on a Tuesday morning. Clara stood behind her new counter in her new building on her new land and felt something she hadn't felt in years' pride. "Not bad," Jace said from the doorway. "Not bad? It's perfect." "You built it. Of course it's perfect." Clara wanted to correct him, to say they built it together, but the words stuck in her throat, tangled up with feelings she wasn't ready to name. Tug. The first real fight happened 3 weeks after the store opened. Clara was balancing books when Jace walked in. "We need to talk." She didn't like his tone. "About what?" "Money. The store's doing good, but the ranch needs capital. I want to sell some cattle early to cover—" "No." Jace stopped. "No. The store's profit goes back into inventory, building the business. That was the deal. The deal was we help each other. The ranch needs—" "The ranch is your problem. The store is mine. We agreed." "We're married, Clara. It's all our problem." "It's a business marriage. You said so yourself. Business means separate finances until we decide otherwise." Jace's jaw clenched. "So we're just roommates who share a name. I don't know what we are. But I'm not letting my business get swallowed by ranch expenses. Not after everything I fought for. I'm not trying to swallow anything. I'm trying to build something that works for both of us." "Then build it without my money." The silence was sharp enough to cut. "Fine," Jace said finally. "Keep your money. Build your empire. Just remember when your empire needed saving, I didn't ask questions. I just helped." He left. The door didn't slam. Somehow that was worse. Clara sat there, hands shaking, knowing she'd been unfair and not caring because fair meant vulnerable, and vulnerable meant crushed. She'd been crushed enough for one lifetime. They didn't speak for 2 days. Moved around each other like ghosts. Ate separate meals. Slept in separate rooms. On the 3rd day, Clara found Jace in the barn, shoeing a horse, working in silence. "I'm sorry," she said. His hands didn't stop moving. "For what?" "For being harsh. You're right, you helped me when you didn't have to. I should trust you more. But you don't. I don't know how." Clara stepped closer. "Every man I've ever trusted either died or tried to own me. I don't know how to let someone in without losing myself." Jace set down the horse's hoof, straightened. "I'm not trying to own you, Clara." "I know. In my head, I know. But my head and my gut don't always agree." He studied her for a long moment. Then, "What if we set up a joint account for ranch store expenses? We both contribute what we can. Both decide how it's spent. Equal, say. That's, actually fair. I can be fair when people aren't assuming I'm the enemy." Clara winced. "I'm working on that. Work faster." But Jace's tone was softer. "I meant what I said. I don't want you broken. But I also don't want us at war. We're supposed to be partners. I've never been good at partnering. Neither have I. Guess we'll figure it out together." Together. That word again. Clara was starting to hate how much she wanted it to be true. The attack came on a Thursday night. Clara woke to the smell of smoke. Sat up fast. Fire, something was on fire. She ran downstairs, found Jace already outside, bucket in hand, fighting flames that had started in the barn. "Get water!" he shouted. Clara grabbed every bucket she could find. They worked frantically, throwing water, beating flames, trying to save what they could. By the time they got it under control, half the barn was gone. They stood there, covered in soot, breathing hard. "How did it start?" Clara asked. Jace held up a piece of cloth, soaked in kerosene. "It didn't. Someone said it." Clara's blood ran cold. "Who?" "Take a guess. Morrison? Or Porter? Or anyone from that poisonous town who couldn't stand seeing her survive. We should report this." "To who?" "The sheriff who drinks with Morrison every Saturday." Jace threw the cloth down. "We're on our own out here." "Then what do? We rebuild. And we watch our backs." But Clara saw something in his eyes that scared her more than the fire had. Not fear. Anger. The cold, controlled kind that didn't go away. "Jace, I'm not letting them touch you again." His voice was iron. "Not your store, not your safety, not anything. I don't care what it takes. This isn't your fight." "The hell it's not. You're my wife. That makes it my fight." Wife. The word hit different this time. Not business, not arrangement. Real. Clara reached out, took his hand, squeezed. "Our fight," she corrected quietly. "It's our fight." Jace looked down at their joined hands, then back at her. Something shifted in his expression, softened. "Yeah," he said. "Ours." They stood there in the wreckage of the barn holding hands, and Clara realized with a jolt that scared and thrilled her in equal measure, this wasn't pretend anymore. Somewhere between the vows and the fights and the partnership, something real had started growing. And she had no idea what to do about it. They rebuilt the barn in 5 days, worked dawn to midnight. Thomas helped. Even a few neighboring ranchers showed up, men who didn't like Morrison's methods, even if they didn't approve of Clara either. On the 6th day, a customer came to the store. Young woman, scared. "Mrs. Calder." Clara looked up. "Yes. I'm Emma Harris. I heard what you did. Standing up to Morrison. I need help." "What kind of help?" Emma pulled out a letter. Same legal seal, same threats. Different victim. He's saying I owe back taxes too. On my dress shop. Says I have 30 days or he takes it. Clara's hands clenched. "How much?" $200. "You have receipts, proof you paid." "I have everything." "But he's saying the same thing he said to you, building versus land, split taxes." Emma's voice broke. "I can't fight him alone. I don't have anyone." Clara looked at this young woman, saw herself 2 months ago, desperate, alone, running out of options. "You're not alone anymore," Clara said. "I'll help you." "You will." "I will. We will." Clara grabbed paper, started making notes. "Tell me everything. Every conversation, every payment, every piece of proof you have." Emma did. Clara wrote it all down. By the time Jace came in an hour later, she had a plan. "We're going to war," she told him. Jace read her notes. His expression went hard. "About time. This isn't just Morrison anymore. It's bigger. He's been doing this for years, to how many women we don't know. But it ends now." "What do you need?" "A lawyer. A good one. Someone who won't back down." "I know someone. 2 towns over. He doesn't like Morrison either." Jace folded the papers. "But Clara, if we do this we make enemies. Real ones. This won't be some barn fire. They'll come at us hard." "Let them come. I'm tired of running." "So am I." Jace smiled. Sharp. Dangerous. "Let's burn their whole system down." Clara smiled back. Same energy. Same fire. And in that moment, she realized something that should have terrified her. But didn't. She'd stopped thinking of Jace as a stranger she married out of desperation. He'd become the partner she never knew she needed. And maybe, just maybe, something more. The lawyer's name was Daniel Cross, and he looked like he'd been waiting his whole career for this fight. 12 cases, he said, spreading documents across his desk. That I can prove. Morrison's been running this scheme for at least 8 years. Always women. Always the same excuse about split taxes. Clara sat forward. Can we win? Win. We can destroy him. Cross tapped the papers. But it won't be clean. Morrison has friends, money, power. He'll come at you with everything he has. Jace leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Let him try. Mr. Calder, I don't think you understand. These men don't play fair. They'll target your ranch, your wife, your reputation, everything. They already burned our barn, Clara said flatly. What else can they do? Cross looked at her for a long moment. More than you think. But if you're willing to fight, I'm willing to lead the charge. How long? Jace asked. To build the case, 3 months minimum. To get a court date 6, maybe more. We don't have 6 months, Clara said. Emma Harris has 30 days before Morrison takes her shop. Then we file for an emergency injunction. Buy her time. Cross gathered the documents. But I need more evidence. More victims willing to testify. Can you get them? Clara thought of the women in town. The ones who whispered. Who looked away. Who'd been crushed into silence. I'll get them, she said. Getting them was harder than she expected. The first woman Clara approached, Sarah Mitchell, widow of the blacksmith, shut the door in her face. I can't help you. Sarah, please. Morrison did the same thing to you 5 years ago. You lost your house. And I survived. I moved on. You should too. But if we fight together, fight. Sarah's laugh was bitter. Clara, you married a man with money and land. You got out. Some of us don't have that option. We can't afford to make enemies. The door closed. Locked. Clara stood there, fists clenched, wanting to scream. Thomas found her an hour later sitting on the store steps, head in her hands. No luck, he asked. They're terrified. Can't blame them. Clara looked up. I forgot what it's like. Being alone. Being vulnerable. I had Jace to back me up. They don't have anyone. So we become their anyone. How they won't even talk to me. Thomas sat beside her. You're thinking about this wrong. You're going to them as Clara Calder, the woman who escaped. They don't want to hear from her. Then who should they hear from? Clara Whitmore, the woman who survived. Clara blinked. What? Tell them your story, not the marriage part, the before part. How Morrison tried to crush you, how you almost gave up, how scared you were. Thomas met her eyes. They need to know you are where they are, that you understand. He was right. Of course he was right. Clara stood. I need to try again. She went back to Sarah Mitchell's house that evening. Knocked. Waited. Sarah opened the door, already shaking her head. I said, I know what you said. Just listen. Clara took a breath. 5 years ago, when Morrison came after you, were you scared? Sarah's expression faltered. Of course I was. So scared you couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, felt like the whole world was crushing you and nobody cared. Clara, because that's where I was 3 months ago, sitting in my store at night counting money I didn't have, knowing I was going to lose everything, knowing the whole town was watching and enjoying it. Sarah's hand dropped from the door. You had options. You had Jace. I had desperation, and a stranger who offered me a way out that meant giving up everything I'd built for myself. You think that was easy? You think I wasn't terrified? Clara's voice cracked. I was so scared, Sarah, every single day, still am sometimes. Then why fight? Why not just Because I'm tired of being scared, tired of letting men like Morrison decide what I'm worth. Clara stepped closer. You lost your house. I almost lost my store. Emma's about to lose her dress shop. How many more, Sarah? How many more women does he get to crush before someone says enough? Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I have nothing left to fight with. You have your voice. That's enough. That's everything. The silence stretched. Clara could hear her own heartbeat. Finally, Sarah whispered, What do you need me to do? Go. 1 woman became 2. 2 became 5. 5 became 9. They met in Clara's store after hours. Women of all ages, all with the same story, all carrying the same wounds. "He took my bakery," one said. "Claimed I owed $400 in back taxes. I didn't. I paid everything. My seamstress shop, $300. My boarding house, $512. The numbers kept coming. The stories kept coming. And Clara wrote down every single word, cross-reviewed the testimonies with something like awe. "This is enough. More than enough. We file tomorrow." "Will it work?" Emma asked. "It has to," Cross said. "Because if it doesn't, Morrison will make sure none of you ever recover." That night, Clara couldn't sleep, kept thinking about those 9 women, about the risk they were taking, about what would happen if they lost. She found Jace in the barn working late as usual. "Can't sleep either," he asked without looking up. "Too much in my head." "Want to talk about it?" Clara leaned against the stall door. "What if we lose? What if Cross is wrong and Morrison wins and all those women? We won't lose. You don't know that. I know you." Jace set down the bridle he was mending. "I know when you fight for something you don't stop. And I know those women wouldn't have stepped forward if they didn't believe in you. They're risking everything. So are we." He moved closer. "Clara, the moment we decided to fight back, we put targets on our backs. There's no safe anymore. Just forward." "I hate that you're right." "You'll get used to it." Jace's smile was small, warm. "Come on, you need rest. Tomorrow's going to be hell." He was right about that, too. The filing hit Morrison like a bomb. By noon, the whole town knew. By evening, the backlash started. 3 of Clara's suppliers cut her off. No explanation, just closed accounts. Thomas came back from a delivery white-faced. "Someone tried to run me off the road, deliberately." Jace's expression went dark. "Who?" "Didn't see, but they knew where I was going, knew the route." Clara felt ice in her stomach. "They're watching us." "Of course they are." Jace grabbed his coat. "Thomas, you don't make deliveries alone anymore. I go with you or Clara does." "Understood." "Yes, sir." That night Clara heard horses outside. Multiple horses. She grabbed the rifle, ran to the window. 6 riders. Torches. Surrounding the house. Jace was already downstairs, shotgun in hand. "Stay inside." "Like hell." Clara joined him at the door. The lead rider pulled down his mask. "Samuel Porter." "Of course." "You made a mistake, Calder," Porter called. "Filing that lawsuit. You should have stayed out of town business." "Town business?" Jace's voice was cold. "You mean your criminal enterprise. Careful with your words. Slander's a crime. So's extortion, fraud, arson." Jace raised the shotgun. "You came here to threaten me. Try it. See what happens." Porter's smile was ugly. "I don't need to threaten. The law will do that for me. You're harboring a conspiracy against an elected official. That's serious. Morrison's not elected. He's appointed, and he's a thief. Prove it in court if you live that long." Porter turned his horse. "Accidents happen on ranches. Equipment fails. People get hurt. Would be a shame if something happened to your pretty wife." Clara stepped forward before Jace could move, raised her rifle, aimed directly at Porter. "Come near me again," she said quietly, "and accident won't cover what happens to you." Porter's smile faded. He looked at Clara, really looked, and something in his expression shifted. Fear. Actual fear. "You're insane," he said. "No, I'm done." Clara's hands didn't shake. "Done being scared. Done being pushed. You want war? You've got it. But don't expect me to go down easy." The riders left, fast. Jace stared at her. "You just threatened Samuel Porter." "I know. With a rifle." "I know. Clara, don't." She lowered the gun. Her hand started shaking now that it was over. "Don't tell me I shouldn't have. Don't tell me it was too risky. I'm tired of men telling me what I should and shouldn't do." Jace took the rifle gently, set it aside, pulled her into his arms. Clara stiffened. then melted. Let herself be held. Let herself shake. Let herself be human for just a moment. I wasn't going to say you shouldn't have, Jace murmured into her hair. I was going to say, I've never seen anything more beautiful in my life. Clara laughed. Or cried. Maybe both. You have a strange definition of beautiful. You standing your ground, refusing to back down. That's the most beautiful thing I know. He pulled back, looking at her. Clara, you're... Whatever he was going to say got cut off by the sound of breaking glass. They ran outside, found flames spreading across the newly rebuilt barn. Again. No! Clara screamed. But this time they were ready. Jace had installed water barrels. They fought the fire together fast and efficient, and saved most of the structure. By dawn they were covered in soot and exhausted and furious. This has to end, Clara said. It will. In court. Court's not fast enough. Clara turned to face him. We need to hit back, hard, now. What are you thinking? Morrison's running illegal schemes. Porter's covering for him. But they need records, paper trails, evidence. Clara's mind raced. What if we found it first? You want to break into the land office? I want to expose them before they destroy us. Jace was quiet for a long moment. Then, that's illegal. So is extortion. If we get caught, we won't. Clara, Jace, they tried to kill us tonight. Twice now they've burned our property. They threatened Thomas. They're not stopping. Clara grabbed his hands. We can fight fair and lose everything, or we can fight smart and win. Your choice. Jace looked at their joined hands, at her face, at the determination burning in her eyes. Smart it is, he said, but we do this my way. Careful, planned. No risks we don't have to take. Agreed. They shook on it. Partners in crime now. Literally. Clara should have been scared. Should have felt guilty about what they were planning. Instead, she felt alive. The break-in happened 3 nights later. Cross had provided Morrison's schedule. Porter's too. Thursday nights they met at the saloon. Stayed late, got drunk. Perfect timing. Jace picked the lock on the land office in under a minute. Clara slipped inside first, lamp low, moving fast. Records room is in the back, she whispered. They found it. Rows of filing cabinets, thousands of documents. How do we know what to look for? Jace asked. We don't. We take everything marked property tax from the last 10 years. That's hundreds of files. Then we'd better work fast. They did. Filled 2 sacks with documents. Were halfway to the door when they heard voices outside. Clara's heart stopped. That's Morrison. He's early. Jace grabbed her hand. Back room, now. They ran, found a storage closet, squeezed inside just as the front door opened. Morrison's voice carried. Don't care what Cross thinks he can prove. We've covered our tracks. Have we? Porter sounded nervous. Those women are testifying. If even one of them has proof. They don't. I made sure of it. Morrison's footsteps came closer. The records are clean, all legitimate. Let them waste their time in court. Clara held her breath. They were 3 feet away, maybe less. What about Calder? Porter asked. What about him? He's the problem. Get rid of him. The wife falls apart. No leader, no lawsuit. You suggesting we kill him? Silence. Then, I'm suggesting accidents happen. Clara felt Jace tense beside her. His hand tightened on hers. Too risky, Morrison said. But making his life hell, that we can do. I've got friends in the banking commission. We'll call his loans, audit his taxes, bury him in legal costs until he's got nothing left. And if that doesn't work? Then we get creative. The voices faded. A door closed. Silence. They waited 5 full minutes before emerging. Did you hear that? Clara whispered. Every word. Jace's expression was stone. They're planning to destroy us financially. Then we beat them to it. These records. Clara hefted the sacks. This is everything we need. They slipped out the back, made it home without being seen. spent the rest of the night going through files with Cross. What they found was worse than they'd imagined. Morrison hadn't just been targeting women. He'd been skimming property taxes from everyone, doctoring records, pocketing the difference. The split tax scheme was just his way of covering the gaps when he needed quick cash. "This is massive," Cross said, hands shaking as he read. "This is prison time, decades of it." "Can you use it in court?" Clara asked. "I can use it to bury him, them, all of them." Cross looked up. "But how did you get these?" "Does it matter?" Jace said. "If Morrison's lawyer asks, then we say an anonymous source provided them, which is true." Clara met Cross's eyes. "Can you work with that?" Cross smiled. Slow. Dangerous. "Oh, I can work with that." Two. The court date came faster than expected. Morrison had tried to delay, failed. The judge brought in from 2 territories over to ensure impartiality wasn't playing games. The courtroom was packed. Every woman who'd testified, half the town, press from 3 counties. Clara sat in the front row, Jace beside her. His hand found hers under the table, squeezed. "Ready," he whispered. "No. But let's do this anyway." Cross stood. "Your Honor, the evidence will show a systematic scheme of fraud, extortion, and abuse of public office spanning nearly a decade. We have documents. We have testimony. We have proof." Morrison's lawyer, expensive suit-smug expression, waved dismissively. "We have a vindictive woman with a grudge and a collection of desperate individuals willing to lie for her. This is character assassination, nothing more." The judge banged his gavel. "Save the speeches. Present your evidence." What followed was 3 days of brutal testimony. Women taking the stand, voices shaking, telling their stories. Cross presenting document after document showing Morrison's fraud. Morrison's lawyer fought hard. Attacked credibility. Suggested Clara had fabricated evidence. Implied she'd slept her way into marriage with Jace for revenge. Clara sat through it all, jaw clenched, refusing to break. On the 3rd day, Cross called his final witness. Walter Morrison himself. Morrison took the stand confident, arrogant, ready to defend himself. Cross smiled. "Mr. Morrison, you've stated under oath that all property taxes were properly assessed and documented. Is that correct?" "Absolutely. No errors, no discrepancies. None." "Interesting." Cross pulled out a ledger. "This is the official county tax record for 1873. Your signature appears here certifying all accounts balanced. Correct?" Morrison's confidence wavered. "Yes. And this?" Cross produced another document. "This is your personal bank record from the same year, showing deposits totaling $3,000 more than your salary. Care to explain that?" Morrison's face went white. "That's private financial information. How I obtained it is irrelevant. What matters is the pattern. Every year for 8 years, you've deposited amounts that exactly match the missing tax revenue from women's properties." Cross stepped closer. "You didn't just target women, Mr. Morrison. You stole from everyone. The women were just easier to crush when they noticed." The courtroom erupted. The judge hammered for order. Morrison's lawyer tried to object, tried to deflect, but the math was there. Irrefutable. Damning. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty. On all counts. The judge sentenced Morrison to 15 years. Ordered full restitution. Stripped him of his position. Porter, named as an accomplice, got 10 years. Clara sat there numb, barely processing it. They'd won. Actually won. Jace pulled her to her feet, wrapped his arms around her, and Clara buried her face in his chest and let herself cry. Not from sadness, from relief, from release, from finally being free. The celebration at the ranch that night was loud and chaotic and perfect. All 9 women came, brought food, brought laughter, brought hope Clara hadn't seen in any of their eyes before. "You did this," Emma said, hugging Clara tight. "You saved us." "We did this," Clara corrected. "All of us together." Later, after everyone left, Clara and Jay stood on the porch watching stars. "You know what this means," Jay said. "What?" "You're a hero in this town now. They're going to treat you differently." Clara snorted. They'll find something new to whisper about soon enough. Maybe. But they'll never call you too old again. I was never too old. They were just too stupid to see it. Clara leaned against the railing. Thank you for standing with me, for fighting when you didn't have to. I had to. You're my wife. Business wife, Clara reminded him, softer now. That was the deal. Jace turned to face her. Clara, I need to tell you something. Her heart started pounding. What? This hasn't been business for me. Not for a while now. He stepped closer. I don't know when it changed. Maybe that first day you threatened Porter with a rifle. Maybe before. But somewhere along the way you stopped being a deal and started being everything. Clara finished quietly. Jace's eyes widened. You feel it too. I'm terrified of feeling it. But yes. Clara took his hand. Somewhere between the fighting and the fires and the partnership, you became the person I can't imagine living without. And I don't know what to do about that. I do. Jace cupped her face. We stop pretending this is temporary. Stop pretending we're just business. Stop being scared of wanting something real. What if it doesn't work? What if we ruin what we have? What if we don't? What if we build something even better? Clara looked at him. This man who'd saved her and challenged her and stood beside her when the whole world tried to crush them both. All right, she whispered. Let's try real. Jace kissed her, gentle, asking permission. Clara kissed him back, answering, yes. And everything that had been broken inside her started feeling whole again. That kiss changed everything and nothing all at once. Clara woke the next morning in Jace's arms. Actually in his arms, in his bed, no more pretending, and felt something she hadn't felt since Henry died. Safe. Not just physically safe, soul-deep safe. The kind that came from being fully known and still wanted. You're thinking too loud, Jace murmured against her hair. Can't help it. My brain doesn't know how to do this. Do what? Be happy without waiting for it to break. Jace pulled her closer. Then we'll learn together. I'm pretty bad at this too. Clara laughed, soft, real. We're a mess. Best kind of mess there is. They stayed like that until the sun forced them up. Work didn't stop for newfound love. The ranch needed tending. The store needed opening. Life kept moving. But everything felt different now, lighter somehow. Thomas noticed immediately. You're smiling. I smile. Not like that, you don't. He grinned. Things good with you and Mr. Calder? Things are good. About time. You two have been dancing around each other for months. We have not. Clara stopped. Have we? Boss, everyone saw it but you. Thomas loaded supplies into the wagon. The way he looks at you. The way you light up when he walks in. Yeah. Everyone knew. Clara felt heat in her cheeks. Actual blushing. When was the last time she'd blushed? The bell chimed. A customer Clara didn't recognize. Young woman, well-dressed, nervous. Can I help you? Are you Clara Calder? The one who took down Walter Morrison? I had help, but yes. The woman's hands twisted together. I'm from 2 towns over. Heard what you did. I have a similar situation. Land office claiming I owe taxes I already paid. And I thought maybe you could... Tell me everything, Clara said. By the end of the day, 3 more women had come. All with the same story. Different towns, same scheme. Apparently Morrison hadn't been working alone. He'd been part of a network. Clara sent word to Cross. He came that evening, face grim. It's bigger than we thought, he said, spreading documents across Clara's desk. Morrison's been teaching others his methods. There's at least 6 land offices running variations of this fraud across the territory. Jace leaned against the wall. Can we stop them? With Morrison's testimony, maybe, if he cooperates. Why would he cooperate? Clara asked. Because I can offer him reduced time, if he gives up the others. Cross looked at them both. But it means more fights, more court cases, more women needing help. Are you prepared for that? Clara thought about those women in her store. Desperate, scared, looking at her like she had answers. No, she said honestly. But I'll do it anyway. Jace straightened. We'll do it anyway. Cross smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. The work consumed them. Days turned into weeks, turned into months. Clara's store became a hub not just for supplies, but for women seeking help. She kept records, documented cases, connected victims with lawyers, built a network of her own. The ranch grew too. Jace hired 3 more hands, expanded the herd, built proper structures. What had been a failing property became profitable, thriving even. They worked dawn to midnight most days, fell into bed exhausted, but happy. Together. One night, 6 months after the kiss that changed everything, Clara was doing books when Jace appeared with 2 glasses of whiskey. You need to stop, he said. After I finish this column. Clara, stop. She looked up, saw genuine concern, set down her pen. What's wrong? You're burning yourself out. Running the store, helping all these women, managing our finances. When's the last time you slept a full night? I sleep fine. You had nightmares 3 times this week. Clara hadn't thought he'd noticed. They're nothing. They're not nothing. Jace sat across from her. You're carrying too much. Let me help more. You're already running the entire ranch. So we hire more help. For both. Thomas can manage the store more. We bring in a bookkeeper. We build a team instead of killing ourselves trying to do everything alone. Clara wanted to argue. Old habits died hard, but Jace was right. She was exhausted. All right, she said quietly. We build a team. Good, because I have another idea. Should I be worried? Probably. Jace pulled out papers. I want to buy the old meeting hall in town, turn it into a community center, a place where women can come for help, legal aid, business advice, a safe space. Clara's breath caught. That would cost a fortune. We have a fortune. Between your store profits and ranch income, we can afford it. Jace, that's our security, our future. No, that's our legacy. He met her eyes. Clara, we fought this fight because it was right, not because it was profitable. If we stop now, if we hoard what we have and ignore everyone else still suffering, what was it all for? He was right. God, he was right. A community center, Clara repeated, for women. For anyone who needs it, but especially women. Run by women. Funded by people who give a damn. Clara felt tears starting. You're going to make me cry. Good tears. The best kind. She reached across the table, took his hand. Let's do it. They bought the hall 2 weeks later. Renovation took 3 months. By spring, they had a functioning center with 2 full-time staff and a rotating group of volunteer lawyers, accountants, and businesswomen. Clara cut the ribbon on opening day in front of half the territory. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. She'd become something she never intended, a symbol, a leader, a woman who proved the rules didn't have to be the rules. How does it feel? A reporter asked. Clara looked at the building, at the women already lined up for help, at Jace standing beside her proud and solid, and hers. It feels like the beginning, she said. The first real test of their marriage, the real one, not the business arrangement, came that summer. Clara missed her monthly cycle, then another. By the 3rd month, she couldn't ignore it anymore. She was pregnant. The realization hit her like a physical blow. She'd been pregnant once before, years ago, with Henry. Lost the baby at 5 months. The grief had nearly destroyed her. She couldn't do that again, couldn't survive it. Clara spent 2 days in silent panic before Jace cornered her in the barn. Talk to me. I'm fine. You're terrified. I can see it. What's wrong? Clara opened her mouth, closed it. The words wouldn't come. Jace waited. Patient, present. Finally, I'm pregnant. His expression went through about 6 emotions in 3 seconds. Shock, joy, fear, understanding. And you're scared. I lost one before, with Henry. I can't. Her voice broke. I can't go through that again. Jace pulled her close. Then we'll be careful. We'll get the best doctor. We'll do everything right. It wasn't about doing things right last time. It just happened. Bodies fail. Babies die. I can't. Clara, look at me. He cupped her face. Whatever happens, we face it together. You're not alone in this. Not in anything. Not ever again. The tears came then, hard and fast and cleansing. Jace held her through all of it. Didn't try to fix it. Didn't make promises he couldn't keep. Just stayed. That night, lying in bed, Clara put his hand on her still flat stomach. I'm terrified, she whispered. Me too. But also, she struggled for words. Also, maybe a little bit hopeful. Yeah, me too. The pregnancy was hard. Clara's body remembered the last loss and fought her every step. Morning sickness that lasted all day. Exhaustion that sleep couldn't fix. Fear that never quite left. But Jace was there, every moment, rubbing her back when she was sick, taking over store duties when she couldn't stand, sitting with her through the nights when fear made sleep impossible. Thomas stepped up too, ran the store like he'd been born to it. The community center thrived under its new director, a sharp-minded woman named Ruth, who'd lost her own business to a fraudulent tax scheme 5 years back. Everything Clara had built kept running, even when she couldn't. At 6 months, the doctor confirmed the baby was healthy, strong. A girl. Clara cried. Jace cried. They held each other and let themselves believe maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. The baby came on a cold November morning. Labor was brutal. 20 hours of pain and fear, and Clara begging it to be over. But then, that first cry. That perfect, angry, alive cry. The doctor placed a squirming bundle in Clara's arms, and Clara looked down at her daughter and felt her entire world rearrange itself around this tiny person. She's perfect, she whispered. Jace was crying. Actually crying. She's got your eyes. She's got your stubbornness, already fighting. They named her Grace, Grace Eleanor Calder. For new beginnings and second chances and everything good Clara had never thought she'd have again. The years that followed blurred together in the best way. Grace grew. The ranch grew. The store expanded to 3 locations across the territory. The community center helped over 200 women in its first year alone. Clara became a name people knew. Not as the widow or the woman who's too old, but as herself. Clara Calder, businesswoman, advocate, leader, mother. She spoke at women's suffrage meetings, testified before the territorial legislature about fraud prevention, helped draft laws protecting widows' property rights. And through it all, Jace was there. Her partner, her equal, her home. One evening when Grace was 3 and running wild through the house, a young woman appeared at the door. Mrs. Calder? Clara looked up from the chaos. Yes. I'm sorry to bother you. I needed to ask you something. Come in. Excuse the mess. 3-year-olds are disasters. The woman smiled, nervous. I'm 28. Unmarried. Just lost my job because my boss said I was getting too old to be useful. My family's telling me to settle, marry anyone who'll have me, give up my dreams. She twisted her hands together. Is it ever too late to build something to matter? Clara looked at this young woman, saw herself a decade ago, scared, desperate, believing the lies the world told her about her worth. How old do you think I am? Clara asked. The woman blinked. I don't, maybe 35, but 41. I'm 41 years old. Clara smiled. I was 30 when they told me I was too old, too late, washed up, should just disappear quietly. You know what I did. Built an empire. I survived, that's all. One day at a time, one choice at a time. I decided their timeline didn't get to be mine. Clara moved closer. You're 28. You have decades ahead of you. Decades to build, to grow, to become whoever you're meant to be. Don't let anyone, not your family, not society, not some idiot boss tell you when your story ends. The woman's eyes filled. But how? How do I start when everyone's against me? You find one person who believes in you. Maybe that's a partner. Maybe that's yourself. And you build from there. Small steps. Steady progress. Some days you'll want to quit. Some days you'll wonder if they were right about you. Clara touched her shoulder. But they're not right. They're never right. You're not too old. You're not too anything. You're exactly who you need to be, right when you need to be it. The woman left 20 minutes later with Resources contacts and hope Clara could see burning in her eyes. Jace appeared in the doorway. That was beautiful. That was necessary. Clara leaned into him. Someone told me that once. That I mattered. Right when I'd forgotten. Figured I should pay it forward. You do that every day. So do you. Grace barreled into them, shrieking with laughter, chasing their dog. Clara scooped her up, breathing in that perfect child smell. Mama, tell me the story again, Grace demanded. Which story? The one where you and Papa saved everyone. Clara looked at Jace. He smiled. That same smile from the day he'd proposed. The one that said, "We've got this." We didn't save everyone, Clara said, settling Grace on her hip. We just showed them they could save themselves. But you helped. We helped. And they helped us. That's how it works. Grace considered this. When I grow up, can I help people too? Baby, you can do anything you want. Be anything you want. The world's going to try to tell you otherwise. Going to say you're too young or too old or too female or too different. But you know what you'll do. What? You'll prove them wrong. Just like your mama did. Grace beamed, wriggled down, ran off to continue terrorizing the dog. Jace wrapped his arms around Clara from behind. She's going to be a force of nature. Like her parents. Think we're ready for that? Clara laughed. Absolutely not, but we'll figure it out anyway. They stood there in their chaotic, beautiful, hard-won life, and Clara thought about the woman she'd been at 30. Broken. Desperate. Convinced her story was over. That woman would never have believed this was possible. This happiness. This partnership. This legacy. But it was real. All of it. Built one choice at a time. One fight at a time. One moment of refusing to accept someone else's ending for her story. Hey, Jace said softly. What are you thinking? Clara turned in his arms. Looked at this man who'd seen her at her lowest and decided she was worth fighting for. Who'd stood beside her through every battle. Who'd given her space to be herself while making sure she never had to be alone. I'm thinking about how they said I was too old at 30, she said. How they said my story was over. How they tried to crush me into nothing. And I'm thinking how grateful I am that I didn't believe them. Clara smiled, fierce, triumphant, free. Because the best parts of my life, the real parts, the parts that matter, they all started the day I stopped letting other people write my ending and started writing it myself. Jace kissed her. Grace shrieked somewhere in the other room. The dog barked. Their ranch hummed with life outside. The store would open tomorrow. The community center would help more women. Their legacy would continue growing. And Clara Calder once told she was too old, too broken, too impossible, stood in the center of the life she'd built, and knew with absolute certainty that the best stories don't end when the world says they should. They begin exactly when you decide you're worth fighting for. And they continue as long as you keep choosing yourself. Keep choosing partnership over isolation. Keep choosing to believe that it's never too late to become who you were always meant to be.